Good morning. If you do not have a group, please put your name in the chat for the MLA oral presentation that we talked about on Thursday. So basically, if you weren't here Thursday, put your name in the chat. Okay, I had a couple groups that only had 2 people. So if you can put your name in the chat, if you had just the 2 of you in the group, so I can put another person with you. Okay, Julian, yeah. So who are the groups that have just 2 members? Please type your names in the chat. Both your names. Maria and Isabella. Okay. All right, then Mallory, I'm gonna put you with Maria and Isabella. I'll give you guys a few minutes to talk here in a moment. After we get our group solidified today, please have one person send me the names of all the members in your group. Are there any other groups that just had 2 people? Julian, you don't remember who you were with? Anybody remember if they were in a group with Julian? Okay, Tristan and Julian. All right. Then I am going to Devin, will you join their group? So that's Devin, Julian, and Tristan. And Maria, Isabel, and Mallory. Any other group only had 2 members? Okay, then I'm going to create groups from the remaining names. So MLA and Kay, I'm going to put you guys in a group together. Let's see. A couple other people. You guys need one more group member. Morning, guys. Devin, I put you with Julian and Tristan. So I'll put you guys in a room here in a second and let you arrange a meeting schedule. Is that okay? Let's see. No problem. Okay, a couple of people joined us. Do you guys have groups? Grant, do you have a group already? Okay, then that'll work. Then Grant, I'm going to put you with MLA and who else does that key? Okay, anyone else who does not have a group? We may have a couple people show, so I may have to add someone to a group later. But all groups should be finalized by tomorrow. Last call. Do you need a group? Lily, who are your group members?
I don't remember their names, but
Anybody remember if they were in a group?
no, it was Milos, and I don't remember the other person.
Milos, do you remember the other person in your group? Claire, okay. Looks like she is not here today. Where is she? Okay. I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms just for a few minutes so you can get up, set up a schedule for the meeting. And when we all come back together, I'm going to go over what you need to put in your presentation more specifically and give you some resources for finding that information. And we'll talk about what a citation style is and why you need to know about it. All right, so I'm going to put you in a breakout room with your group. Give me a few minutes here to get everybody in the correct room. And what I'd like you to do is make sure you have a plan for going forward. The presentations, what did I say? We're going to start the presentation. Oh, wait, Maria's coming in. I'll broadcast I believe we're going to start Thursday with the presentations. No, next Thursday. That's what it was. Okay. All right, hold on just a second. Let me put you in your rooms. Morning, Alexis. Do you have a group for the MLA group presentations?
No, I don't believe I do.
Okay, I do have someone who needs a group, so I'm gonna put you in a group with Camilla and Jonathan.
Okay.
If you can remember those names, and I'm gonna write them down here. And I'll send you their emails after class.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me. Okay. So let's talk about what you need to know to do the presentation and why. 1 second. So as we talked about briefly last Thursday, you're going to basically educate us on using MLA style for an academic paper, okay? It's a 5-minute presentation with a PowerPoint or a Google Slides, whichever you prefer. You're going to show how to create a works cited entry, an in-text citation. So you basically need to either explain to us where to find the information or how to do it or both, and give us examples that help us comprehend. Think of it as like, what would you like to know if you had to use this to write a paper? Consider your audience, right? We've talked about considering who your audience is. Well, basically someone who's learning MLA, what would they need to know? What are the basics? And then where can they go to find more complicated information? Okay. At the end, you'll have a little quiz for us that you can put up put it on a slide, and then we can answer in the chat. Sometimes people create games online that we join. It's up to you how you do it. It doesn't have to be complicated. Okay. So that is what we're working on. So let's talk about where you can find some resources. So one of the best places to find information is the Purdue OWL. Okay. They have an entire section on MLA formatting. Now, it's a lot of information and it can be overwhelming, but they divide it up here in the left column so that you can look at specific parts of the process. So let's talk a little bit about what a citation style is, okay? Basically, citation styles are simply methods that are used in academic papers to show where your information came from, okay? Because an academic paper usually cites sources to support what you're saying. It shows that you have evidence, you have expert opinions, you have studies, you have statistics. Tomorrow we're gonna do a library orientation where they'll explain where we can find some information. When you find this information, in order for us to verify it or get more information from it if we want to, you have to show us that, hey, this piece of information that I'm writing about here in my paper right here came from this source, okay? But you don't want to put everything that has to do with that source there because it really breaks up the flow of your paper, right? If you've got this big thing with the author's name and the title and all the information you need to find it. So what you do is put that on a final page. For MLA, it's called a works cited, okay? There are other reference sources. These are 3 of the most popular here. Some of you may have used APA before or may be going to use it. There are similarities. It is more focused on the year that things were published. MLA is probably the simplest because it focuses on the author's name and the page number if there is one, okay? There are going to be exceptions to those things because an online source doesn't generally have page numbers unless it's a PDF. So we're going to talk, and you're going to look at those exceptions and how things are cited. But it's really all about two parts. Telling us in the paper, here, I took this piece of information from this source, and then giving us a sheet that has all of the information on where to find the source. That's how those two things work together. And when it's correct, I can just take whatever you have in your in-text citation and look it up alphabetically on your works cited page. So let me show you how that works. Again, make sure you're looking at MLA citation style, since there are different citation styles. They all do the same thing. They all show where your information came from when you're citing sources in a paper. Okay, but let's look at MLA. So let's look at the example paper first. So like I said, Purdue OWL is one of the best places to find information. I'll post all of this on Brightspace, and I'll put it in the chat here if you want to copy it now. No, the chat's not coming up. I'll copy it here in a second. So it has an actual sample paper that lets you see how it works in real life. Okay, it has notes as well. See if I can get it a bit larger. So it's going to tell you like formatting things, like for every MLA page should have the last name of the author and the page number. Okay, just like this right here. This is the format for the first page. This is the format that you should use to turn in your next paper as well, even though you're not citing any sources. Okay, so it'll be your name, my name, the class, ENG111, and the date with the day first, then the month, then the year. Okay, the title is here. It's not, the spacing is still double spaced all the way through. I gave you guys an MLA paper template. It's under content in Brightspace if you need it. To download it again, hopefully you downloaded the template so you have it. And then it just has basic information. Here's how you format it. You double space everything. Don't abbreviate the month. So then it shows you things like how it cites the sources. So let's look at what we call an in-text citation. Okay. So here's a sentence, right? This increase accompanied a decrease in rural populations as farmers who preferred trade, transportation, or tinkering to the task of tending crops. So they've got a quote in there. They've got to show you where it came from, right? So at the end of that sentence for MLA, in parentheses, they have the last name of the author and the page number that the quote was taken from. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I want to see that source. So if I go to the last page, what I called the works cited, right? Alphabetically, I should be able to look up whatever was in the works cited. Danoff, alphabetically A, B, no C's, there's a D, right? And now if I want to go find that source, I have all the information that I need to go look it up. So those are how the two parts work together to identify your sources. Where we have problems are if there's not an author, there are other ways of citing sources. Okay, maybe you're citing something like this historical census browser. Okay, this word has to be in the in-text citation for me to be able to look it up. Sometimes people will cite different things like the University of Virginia. If they tell me University of Virginia and I come down here and look it up alphabetically, it's not going to be there. I would have to read every single citation to go, oh, I guess they mean this source. So one basic rule you can remember about citations is whatever is on the works cited has to be in the in-text citation or we can't find it. Not easily anyway. Okay. So that's the basics now there are exceptions, like I said, Hurt and 190. Okay. This information in this sentence came. Another thing to note, I remember generally English has periods and commas inside of punctuation marks or quotations. In this case, MLA has you put the period. See, you know, there's no period here at the end of the sentence. Instead, they have you put the period here after the closing parenthesis so that you know this citation goes with this sentence. Okay. The only exception is to that is if you have a long source like this that you're indenting. Okay. In that case, they allow you to put the punctuation. So unless it's indented, the period has to go after the closing parentheses. Okay, a lot of people have problems with this, but see here, period is here. It is not inside the quotation marks here. Way with me so far? So that's the basic thing. I have to be able to look at whatever source you're citing in your paper, and anything you take from a source that's not what we call common knowledge. Common knowledge are nobody owns the date that something historical happened, or events in history. Famous quotations are considered easy enough to find that you don't have to cite them like Shakespeare. So common knowledge is something I could go into any library and find in about 5 minutes without you giving me all the information about where it's at. I couldn't find those things easily. They're listed on this works cited page because they're much more specific, far less well known, right? They're not common knowledge. You know, they're specifically related to this topic. Any questions so far? But this has a nice guide that lets you go through basically, you know, here's in-text citations, the basics, right? Formatting quotations, how to basically format the works cited page, right? They also have a very nice PowerPoint that you can look through and maybe model your own from. Okay, that explains here's what MLA is, right? You do not have to have, please don't have 43 slides. You're going to hit the highlights as opposed to going over the details like they are. But this is a place where you can also find information. It's just a little less user-friendly, I think, than the Purdue OWL. So it goes through here, what kind of things does it cover? Document format, in-text citations, works cited, okay? The 8th edition, it came out in 2016. So this presentation covers these 3 things, okay? Now, don't copy it. You're going to basically tailor it to your audience, right? But this is a place to find a lot of good information, okay? They also have some videos if you prefer to see how they present it, that talk about what MLA citations are on their YouTube page. And I'll link to some of those also on Brightspace. Okay, so it talks about the header and how it should be formatted. So you can kind of divide up between group members, but you should all know the information, like how do you format the paper for the header and the page numbers? Should the first page look like? Then they have an example. So we need examples, remember? Examples help us to visualize what you're talking about. You may not want to get specifically into things like section headings and tables and graphs yet, but you want to tell us where we can go to find that information if we want to put it in their paper. And the example paper does have examples using those formats if you wanted to put in a table or a graph. It's got some of those examples in there. So here's another example of what the in-text citation work. Well, and there's 2 ways to do an in-text citation, okay? You can tell me the name of the author in your writing. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. If you give me the name here, you don't have to give it to me at the end. You just need the page number if there is one. If this came from a website without a page number, then you would have nothing here. Okay, but I would still be able to go look this up on your works cited. I could look up Wordsworth, right, as the author and find all the information I needed to get back to that source if I wanted to. Now, if you don't mention his name, then you have to put it there at the end with the page number. There's the period, right? Not here, over here. Okay. So that's two ways to do the in-text citation. You already mentioned the source and the author's name in your actual writing, and that means you don't put it there, or you save it for the end. And alternating can be a good way to help the flow of your paper. Okay. So all of these things, you know, there are exceptions. Like I said, if there are no page numbers, how to cite something that doesn't have an author, you abbreviate the title. So that's what they've done here. Impact of global warming, note the quotation marks, because it'll look like whatever it looks like on the citation page. If it's in italics on the citation page, it'll be in italics here. If it's in quotation marks on the citation page, the works cited, it also will be here. But you don't put the whole title, you just abbreviate it. So there are all these things that you can go over. And like I said, I will post these. So does anybody have any questions? Milos, were you not able to see my screen? I'm going to put all these links on Brightspace.
Yes, because my screen was frozen.
Okay. I'll put all the links on Brightspace under announcements. Well, yeah. That'll give you the resources so that you can look things up and examples. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm asking you to do in the presentation? I'd like you all to present to each other too, so that you can learn all of the elements that you need to about MLA. We'll continue going over it and talking about, but the basic format is author's name and being able to look it up on the works cited. And if whatever you have in parentheses is not the first thing on the works cited, you're having a problem with your MLA. Okay. APA basically works the same way, only instead of page numbers, they emphasize dates. They do include page numbers as well. Okay. But MLA is what we're using for this class and what I'd like you to become familiar with. All right, we're out of time. I'm going to open up a 10-minute session after this for questions. So if you want to come and talk to me more about it or discuss your group or anything that you need to, I will be here. Otherwise, please read the chapter and process analysis for next Monday. That is also an assignment I just put on Brightspace. Okay, then I will be available for questions. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.